Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This block is called 16 patch, and you can make it 8 inches or 12 inches. I have instructions for both here. Here's the diagram. It's all squares, and there are 8 accent squares and 8 background squares. Here is what 4 blocks look like, block to block. This is a 4x4 grid, so we have 4 across and 4 down. If you're making the 8-inch block, then each unit in each grid space finishes at 2 inches. But if you're making the 12-inch, they finish at 3 inches. For the 8-inch block, we use a 2-inch finished square. We cut 2.5-inch squares. You'll need 8 patches of the background and 8 patches of the accent fabric. Here are the Quilt dies that will cut the 2.5-inch square. For the 12-inch block, you cut a 3-inch finished square. You cut 3.5-inch squares. You'll need the same number, 8 of each, the background and the accent fabric. And here are the Quilt dies that will cut the 3.5-inch squares. You can use strip piecing, or you can cut out patches, which are all squares. The 8-inch block uses 2-inch finished squares and is jelly roll friendly. So you can use your jelly rolls for this. 1 light and 1 dark strip will make 2 of these blocks, 2 identical blocks. The 12-inch block uses 3-inch finished squares. So here are the cutting instructions for the 8-inch block here and the 12-inch block here. And it gives you the amount you need to cut squares or to cut strips. Here are some sample layouts down here. For the 8-inch block, it takes 80 blocks, and this finishes at 64 inches by 80 inches. You're going to use 40 accent strips and 40 background strips for this size. For the 12-inch block, if you make 35 blocks, this will be 60 by 84. It's 5 across and 7 down, the number of blocks. Here are my patches. I chose to cut the squares, and this is going to be my background fabric, but I'm going to turn it over and use the back, because to me this is a little bit too bold for the background fabric, but I like this way. So the back of my fabric is going to be the right side. You can lay them out like this, all 16 of them, and then just piece the rows together, and that would go like this. And for these, I'd probably want to go back and maybe do them all facing the same way, these stripes, sort of stripes, for both the background and the accent fabric, or just totally mix them up, whatever you want to do. And then I would stitch the top row together, the second and third and fourth rows together, and press the seams, and then stitch the rows together. Or you can go through and take all your stack and sew them in pairs like this, and then sew them together like this. So however you like to do it. But I'm going to show you how to do, I think people call it web quilting or web piecing. I'm not sure what the name is. But what we're going to do is we're going to piece this all at once. So I'll need to lay these out how I want them. And I'm just going to go like this, sort of alternate the direction. And same thing with this. I'm just going to leave it like that. It's too much thinking. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to start stitching these 2 columns together. So I'll flip this over, and I'll take this to my machine, flip this over, and stitch this. And then I won't cut my stitches, and I'll flip this over and stitch the other one. And keep doing it like this. So when I'm finished, I'll have 1 row of stitching, and all these 4 will be stitched together. And I'll show you what that looks like. Now I've laid them out on my Prophet board, but this is what the first one looks like. See, they're like little flags all together. So what I'm going to do now is open this up, open all these up, and then flip this over and stitch it this way, this next column. And I'll go stitch these together. Now here's the second round, so I'll open these up, And do the same thing with this one. I'll take this to my machine and flip this over and stitch that, and then do the same for all the rest of these. Now I have this back on my board, and all the units in the rows are stitched together into rows. And at this point, I'm not going to press my seams. These will not be pressed open. These will be pressed to one side. So I'll flip this over, and you see it's all connected. It's all like a web. So if you drop it or something, then everything's already put together. So what I'll do next is take this to my machine and flip this over. And I'll take one, say the bottom side, and I'll press the seam allowance to this direction, and the top press in this direction. So then you can feel it that's interlocking with your fingers. So all these will be going in this direction, and all the ones on the bottom will be going in this direction. And I'm going to do that for this row and come back and show you. Now we have this is pieced. I'll just lay them out again. And if you open this up, these are pieced together. Now you'll just flip this over and do the same thing on this row. And you'll look at this one to see which way these are going. So this next row wants to go this way, and the bottom part will go toward the right. So you nest those seams again and stitch this next row together. Now here I have them all sewn together, and if we flip these over, you can see that this row will be pressed this way, and this row will be pressed this way. That's how we piece them together, and then this alternates to the left and this goes to the right. So now I'll take this to my ironing board, and I'll press these first and then try to press these. So all these pieces here, and then I'll just press these seams to one side. Here we have the block. I found it easier to press these seams in one direction. And here's what it looks like, a close-up. So you see these are all pressed in one direction this way, and then this way, and these are all pressed in one direction, going down or up. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.